So start just by telling me your name and where you live and what you do.
And maybe stand a little bit closer to me.
Okay, so he'll look at me over here.
Yeah.
All right, wait a second.
Name, rank, and serial number. Stephen Salemi. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I own and operate a business called The Computer Guru.
Okay, and what do you do?
I sell and service computers, and I do computer tutoring and computer training, upgrades and repairs. Basically, I help people make sense of computers. I'm their ambassador to the computer world.
And how did you get involved in this?
Well, when I graduated from college, I was a freelance writer, and I did publicity, advertising, communications, marketing communications, public relations for computer companies, and I helped them promote their computer products. So I learned a lot about computers that way, back east. And then when I got to Santa Fe, I needed a way to earn a living like everyone else, and since there weren't any large corporations around to hire me to do what I used to do back east, and plus I had kind of had my fill of working for large corporations, I just sort of took it to the streets and opened a little computer shop.
So how long have you been doing this?
Well, I started in '96, so we're going on 7 years. We're at the 7-year itch point now.
Okay, but you're staying in Santa Fe. When I met you, you said you weren't going to stay.
This is true. I actually like Santa Fe. You have to learn to love it. It's a discipline staying here for lots of reasons, financially and emotionally. It's different than other places.
Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
Well, we have a visitor here.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, unfortunately. You're gonna.
Okay, just want to see if I can make you nervous.
I've had worse.
Okay, so we were talking about Santa Fe and how
Santa
you originally wanted to leave, but you're saying it's different than other places. Why?
Well, of course, anyone who isn't independently wealthy will tell you it's a difficult place to, quote, earn a living and to, quote, get a job. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. And it's been said before, so none of this is going to be original. But I think when you get to Santa Fe, it asks you to, the place asks you to discard parts of yourself that you thought were very important, and asks you to develop parts of yourself that perhaps you didn't think were important. So it remakes you in a way, and it remakes you whether you want to be remade or not. And if you don't want to be remade, again, none of this is original, it spits you out, chews you up and spits you out. So, hey, how are you? So you can just put it down. It's cool.
Okay. All right, so you were just talking about Santa Fe spitting you out. How many cases?
Well, no, it didn't spit me out.
No,
I don't want to be too cosmic or anything or get too profound. But, no, I mean, there's a price you have to pay for being here. In addition to, spending all your savings and everything if you have it. It's much more than just money, although everyone talks about money. It's more like you have to become a different person than you were when you got here in order to stay here. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. And in my own case, it was I had to go from being sort of a high-paid corporate consultant type character, with huge paychecks and everything. I didn't work in the companies. I consulted for them, so I was always independent, to becoming a shopkeeper, right? And it's all very happy, and I'm glad it all happened. And it was murder. It was murder. So.
So why do you think you came here?
Well, I think I reached a point where I had completely maxed out and perfected what I was before. And so I had to become something larger and, when I say better, certainly something different. I would call it evolution. It's almost a spiritual or a personal evolution. You evolve. It's like the woman, she has her family in her house and all this stuff, and then one day she wakes up and says, I'm not going to do this anymore. So, Thelma and Louise, she leaves the family and, tells the kids to fix her own breakfast and, starts dating an actor or something like that. The whole thing changes. She has to do something else. She has to do something more because she doesn't want to go to the grave being exactly what she was when she was 90, when she was 40. You have to evolve.
But wait a second. Thelma and Louise just went on a weekend holiday, and then circumstances led them to that.
Oh, no. You see, Thelma and Louise were never coming back from that weekend holiday. This is interesting. My friends back east, we all had a party for me. I was going to go out to Santa Fe, go to massage school, and then, 6 months later come back and resume my East Coast, yuppie life, right? I had one friend who lived in Somerville. He was kind of a bohemian character, and he was the only one out of all my Ivy League genius friends who said to me, Steve, you're never coming back. I said, what, are you crazy? I'm going to massage school, going to have a little vacation, I'm coming back east. And he's like, no, you're not coming back, you see? So he knew, nobody else knew, because they were like this. They were very focused, very smart, very, in an evolutionary sense, specialized characters. They knew what they knew, right? And anything that was outside the viewfinder, anything that wasn't on the map, Vanessa, they didn't know. You see?
Talk to me about specialized. I mean, you're specialized. You fix computers, but yet there's so much more in your writings.
Well,
talk to me about that.
I mean, specialized is a big subject. I wouldn't know where to attack it. Let's just say that if you're too specialized in anything, you're not very good at anything. Because to be really good at something, you have to have high intelligence, and you have to have a larger vision. In other words, if I was just a computer mechanic, if that's all I did, I would be a crappy computer mechanic. That doesn't mean I wouldn't, earn a good living, and everyone would think I was good, and I'd have a sign out there, best of Santa Fe and all this stuff, the computer mechanic, but I wouldn't be any good. Because to solve problems, you have to be able to get outside the problem in order to see what's causing the problem. There's an old joke or whatever. They say to play football, right, to coach or to play or to manage football well, you have to be smart enough to play the game well and dumb enough to think that it's worth playing. Okay? And computers, I'm too smart to be fixing computers. However, you need someone like me to fix computers, and it's the only way they can get fixed properly. You have to be too smart to fix computers in order to fix computers well. Okay? You have to be too smart to write good books. Because only an idiot would sit around and sit tied to a chair for 10 hours a day, no friends, no social things, sitting around and torturing himself by writing a book. You have to be crazy to be a novelist or an author.
Wait a second. You don't have to sit around 10 hours a day to write books.
Sure you do. I just read a book about Philip Roth, the famous writer. He writes 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. He doesn't skip a single day. Okay? And what's his name? Who wrote the guy up in New Hampshire? What's his name? John Irving. He strapped himself to the chair in order to write. Right? Because it's no damn fun. It's painful. You see? That's past history. Who?
Well, let me bring you back to
Used to work.
the computer
Of
thing.
course.
Tell me something about your clients. What kind of people you deal with? You can tell me your first client, your last client.
Don't get me started. Let's just say that my clients run the gamut from local people who don't speak English very well, who come in and want to buy a computer, and I have a computer for $250, and that is a lot of money for them. That is too much money for them. Not too much money for the computer, but more than they have. So what they do is they say, okay, well, I'll come back in 2 weeks, and they scrimp and they save, and the kids probably don't get fed or whatever, and they come up with $250, right? That's the low end of my customer spectrum, and I have a very, very limited knowledge of Spanish, a little bit left over from high school, so I can talk to them. And then I get the other thing, which is these millionaire playboy trust funder crazy people who drive in a Honda Acura or a huge BMW or Mercedes or something. Their checkbook is, they just want to break it out and buy something. And then you sell them something, and then 2 hours later, 2 days later, they're unhappy with it because once they've gotten the thrill of buying something expensive, then reality seeps in, and then they want to just go off and do something else. You see, so I have the whole spectrum. I have the whole spectrum of clients for sure.
I need something for my rich clients who buy computers?
Well, it would be unfair to the rich to say that the rich are really any more trouble than the poor in general. Because the rich are, as we know, pretty good at creating problems in the world. So it has to do with people's personalities. Some people are easy and some people are difficult. I think anyone in sales or anyone who runs a business of any kind could tell you that. There are difficult clients, there are easy clients. Some clients give a lot of trouble, and a lot of this has to do with computers. You see, we could spend 2 hours talking about how weird computers are, and therefore how weird people get around computers. People have a very, very odd relationship to computers. I'll talk more about that. And that explains, I think, a lot of the trouble people have with computers. People don't understand computers at all. Okay? If you got into their brain and started looking at what they believed about computers and what they thought, how they thought computers worked and everything, they would be so far off base. It would be incredible. And that's one of the things, that's what I do in a way, and I said that earlier, is I'm kind of a bridge between ordinary people, meaning not rich or poor, but ordinary in terms of knowing squat about computers, and myself who knows, an awful lot about computers. And in a way, I cushion the blow. An example would be someone comes in and says, "Oh, my computer doesn't turn on. Could you fix it for me in 5 minutes?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." Turn it on, everything like that. Hard drive's crashed. What does that mean? It means you've lost all your work. Nah, you're joking, right? No, all your work is gone. I've been writing this novel. I spent the last 20 years of my life. It's gone. Well, get it back. I can't get it back. It's gone. It's dead. It's like Grandma. She's dead. We can't get her back. They don't understand. You see, they've never backed up their work. They don't know what a computer virus is. You see, it's like the computer dropped down from Mars. Okay, and they know as much about the computer that's sitting on their desk every day as you and I would know about a Martian. Okay, my job is, to the extent that people are willing to hire me and pay me, I can ultimately make a computer comprehensible to them. But most people, even if they come in and buy a computer from me, they've usually, spent all their money, shot their wad on the computer. They don't have anything left for training or for tutoring, or very little. So most people don't spend nearly as much time with me as they should. And the more time they would spend with me, the easier time they would have of it when it comes to machines. I understand machines.
If you could explain this, you say most people don't know what a computer is. If you could give us a definition or explain to us what you think a computer is.
Not so much what a computer is what it's all about, how it works, the characteristics of it. If Freud saying, who understands women, what do women really want? Same thing with computers. Nobody understands them. Their relationship, the Buddhists talk about right relationship. People have wrong relationships to their machines. They don't feed their machines. They don't love their machines, right? Their definition of a perfect machine is a machine that sits there year in, year out, does exactly what they want it to do. They don't do shit for it in return, okay? I mean, slaves you think I'm joking. I'm not. Slaves got treated well compared to that. You fed your slaves, you educated them, made sure there was nice, hay in the barn and everything like that. People don't upgrade they only bring them in when there's trouble. And as I used in my previous example, too much trouble. They bring it in when it's all over. When the roof is leaking and there's a flood in their living room. That's when they bring in the computer, when it's too late. You see?
So is a computer like a car in that you have to get...
Cars are easy. Cars are easy because we've lived with them so long. And cars are simple. Cars are really, you get in there, you turn the key and all that. And I use this when I talk to people a lot. When you get in a car, in a rough and ready sense, the stuff that you're allowed to screw with is right there on the dashboard in front of you. So any little button or knob that you see on the dashboard, by definition, it's okay for you to screw with it, right? Whereas the stuff under the hood is the stuff you're not supposed to screw with, right? That's a nice, easy, this is okay, this is not okay. Computers, all the shit you're not allowed to screw with is right there on the dashboard, right next to the stuff you're allowed to screw with. You see? So you can get into massive amounts of trouble with computers very, very quickly because they haven't made any effort to isolate the stuff you're allowed to screw with and the stuff you're supposed to screw with from the stuff that you're not. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people or users. It's more the way the computers are built. They're not engineered to be user-friendly. They're engineered by engineers, people who's, live in another world than you and I. And that's why people have such a hard time with them.
Oh, so explain about why people have so many psychological blocks about computers.
Fears and blocks, yeah. They have... People's relationship to computers is very, very different than any other gadget. For example, I don't know how to fly or repair a 747, right? And I don't spend any time at night, worrying about the fact that I don't know how to fly or drive a 747 airplane. But people feel that if they don't understand computers, if they don't know how to fix them and repair them, if they can't take care of their own computer needs, many, many people feel like there's something seriously wrong with them. They feel like they're stupid, and they feel ashamed of the fact that they can't fix their computer problems themselves and that they might need to turn to an outside source to help. And people will get people will get violent, actually, about computers. My tax lady, or my former tax lady, had a little thing on her desk that said that this fellow, was arrested by the police for shooting his computer with a shotgun, right? I mean, actually shot the damn thing, right? Okay? And for every one of those people who shoots their computer, literally, there's 10 million people who want to shoot their computer and, are smart and sane enough not to. So computers evoke strong emotions in people. People get very, very irrational about computers, but only because of, again, their attitude to it. If they realized how horribly complex a computer is, they would let themselves off the hook and they wouldn't feel so bad. Part of this has to do with the caveman mind. Okay? A computer is, 1.5 feet tall. Okay? So it's a little box. So how threatening, how dangerous, how complex, how maddening can something be if it's only a foot tall? Right? It's not like a dinosaur or something like that. But the truth is, electronic circuits are micro-miniaturized. So actually, that computer, which is a foot tall, if you blew it up to its real size, fantastic voyage, the thing would be the size of a skyscraper. So computers are very, very, very complex, very dense gadgets. But people don't see it that way, okay? And they want to be able to go to the cocktail party, and talk to their friends and say, I bought this new Dell, and, I know how to use QuickBooks, and I know how to get on the internet. All the stuff has got very little to do with the real complexity of the computer, how much can actually be done with it. Like an iceberg, right? 10% above the water, 90% below. Most people are using 10% of their computer. 90% of it is sitting there. They have no idea how it works. They have no idea what it can do for them. So to the extent that, people hire me, I say, listen, you've got this thing on your desk that can do a lot for you if you know what it can do for you and if you know how to make it do what you want it to do for you. Now, every once in a while I have, one of these perfect clients who, has enough money to pay me and is doing something clever and useful and nice with the computer, perhaps something that other people don't do. And those are nice, but that's the cream, it's not the milk. Most of it is milk, and occasionally we get some cream,
I love the background. This is very good.
The blue? Cool.
Yeah, it's just very, very simple.
Taurus turquoise.
Because there's going to be so much other stuff.
Yeah, right.
We're going to need something simple. Grant?
Okay, rolling.
So you just said that every once in a while you get the cream, the rest is the milk. Tell me about the milk client.
Well, the milk clients are the bread and butter clients. They're the clients who, if they break, it's a simple repair. It's $100 or something like that. It's not a whole big. We move them forward a little bit. We don't move them forward a lot. My role as computer facilitator would be to sell someone a really expensive, like a $2,500 computer that I build by hand, just like myself, a Stradivarius of computers, and then spend 6 hours training them to do all the things they want to do with the computers and do it right. I have some clients who are doing digital video editing, making movies and things like that, and the computers are excellent for that. And anyone who's making movies or doing something creative or fun with a computer is what I would consider to be an ideal client, in the sense that they're pushing the computers to the max. They're using, 60, 70, 80% of the computer's capacity and capability rather than 10%, right? But, you are what you eat and you are what you compute with. So if you're a person who uses 10% of their brain, right, and the other 90% is unused, you're going to be the kind of person who uses 10% of their computer, right? And 90% of the computer is unused. Well, some people have other things to do. Some people have a life, right? But, and another thing, really, is this idea that computers are somehow, it's all to do with the person's attitude towards the computer. If a lot of people have weird sort of reverse snobism, reverse ego about computers, it's like, I don't need to learn how to use a computer, I'm a natural kind of person, Computers are evil, computers are sterile, computers are stupid, all this stuff. It's got nothing to do with anything, I mean, if I have a friend who's in Russia or in Italy or Europe or something, and I can send an email to them, and 5 seconds later they've got it, and they can read about how my life is, that's a wonderful thing. I mean, if the computer did nothing else but email, right, it would be as useful and as cool and as wonderful as a telephone. You don't hear people bitching about the telephone. You don't hear people getting all bent out of shape about the telephone, too. Of course, it's because telephones rarely give trouble. Computers give trouble all the time. Telephones don't get viruses, right? Telephones don't have hard drives that crash without announcing their imminent failure and the loss of 10 years, 15 years worth of your work. Of course, if you don't back up your work and you've lost your great, there's no excuse for it, right? There's no excuse for losing the great American novel on your computer. It means that you didn't know what the hell you were doing. And, God was punishing you for being a dum-dum, right? Because you have to back up your work. Well, I didn't know. No one told me. It's like, well, you didn't ask. If someone walked in off the street right now and said, Steve, I'm going to pay you for 20 minutes of your time, I would say, well, I have a minimum hour. You can pay me for an hour and take 20 minutes if you want. And I said, okay. And they said, what exactly do I need to know in order to use this computer properly and not to get, can you use dirty words here? Not to get fucked. What can I do? I would sit them down and I'd give them my back up your work lecture and how to back up your work. I would give them my virus lecture, how to keep viruses off the machine. I would give them the keep your kids away from your machine lecture. And a lot of family type people, they hate that. They don't want to hear it. They've got this thing, the kids are up on pedestals, and the kids are wonderful and the kids are going to be their salvation. But the truth is, I love kids. Some of my best friends are kids. What it boils down to is that the kids have to have their own computer too. You see? Computers are cheap. Don't give me this shit. You can only afford one computer. The kids have their own computer, so the kids can pound away and play their games. They break their computer. That's fine. You can deal with it. Dad and mom can continue to do their work, run their business, their construction company, balance their checkbooks, manage their stock portfolio without the kid bringing down the function of the household. It's very unfair to the kid to put the responsibility of the whole computing scene on a little kid's shoulders, you see. But you can understand it gets very complicated because the relationship of the people and the family and the mother and the dad to the kids and their computer, it's all the same, you see. There's going to be, if the parents are wacko with the computer, they're going to be wacko with the kids, right? I mean, it's all one, it's all holistic, it's all one kettle of fish, you see, Vanessa? So, Grant, that's the way it is.
It's really hard not to laugh. You doing okay?
Okay, anytime.
So do tell me about your worst customer. I know you said something about the police coming one time.
Oh, well, it would be hard to pick the worst customer. We've had, I shout at people a lot. So we have that. I've looked it up, I've checked it out, and there's no law against shouting at people, yet. I'm sure if our president has his way, you won't be allowed to shout at people. But right now, it's a constitutional right, I think, to yell at people, particularly since this is my house. And they can always leave if they want to. But there have been fist fights and extremely overheated situations. One guy came. I mean, there's lots of ways you can get me riled up, and one of them is to hire me to fix your computer, and then when I'm about halfway through the repair, when I've been spending countless hours on the damn thing, scratching my head, trying to figure out what's wrong, undoing all the things that the user has done to their machine. Then they call me up and say they've changed their mind. They don't want me to do the repair. Okay? Now, what do we do in that scenario? Right? Besides end up, brawling in the parking lot. We've got a machine that's halfway apart. It's in pieces, right? We've got 3 or 4 hours of my time into this thing. They don't want to pay me for the repair. Well, I don't know what to do with it. Should they take it home in pieces? Right? Should I spend more of my time to put the thing back together? And should I just throw it together, or should I put it back together in a way that works? Right? Are they going to pay me or not? They've already decided they don't want to pay me, probably because they spoke to one of their friends who got yelled at me at one time, and they said, oh, he's crazy. Right? So you've got what I might call a customer service issue on your hands here. And if the person is particularly belligerent, plus I'm so angry at their stupidity in this particular scenario that I will give them, a proverbial piece of my mind. And, they didn't come here for a piece of my mind. They came here to get their computer repaired. Oh, but wait, they don't want their computer repaired either, so why did they come here again? I don't remember. I used to have a little thing on my computer, Marshall Fields, the guy who did the store there in Chicago, and one of the things was time, you have to respect and value time. And so, if you want to get me mad, waste my time. That will get me real mad. You can waste time and get compensated for it, so then it's not a total waste, but it's still a waste, because even though you got paid for something, you were wasting time. But to have a period of your life taken away that had absolutely no value to anyone, utterly wasted, like sitting around watching TV or something, that's bad. That'll get me pissed off, big time. So, if you hire me to, the lesson here, the moral of this story, Aesop's fable, is that if you hire me to fix a computer, let me finish the job and pay me for it. And if you don't want me to fix the computer, right, then don't hire me to do it, and we'll all get along. But it's just this changing the mind, ambiguous thinking. That I think some of the worst situations have been like that. And an analogous situation, of course, is to buy a computer from me and then decide you don't want it anymore and return it. It's this parallel situation. This isn't Kmart, it's not Walmart, it's not Taco Bell. Okay, if you buy a computer from me, I build it for you and for you alone. I've spent hours and hours and hours getting it ready just for you, like a custom-made suit. It's got your length, your height, the whole thing, okay? So you can't just return it. It's not that simple. I don't just put it back on the shelf. There is no shelf. There never was a shelf. I'm the shelf, okay? So if you want to return something that you bought here, you have to, number one, have a damn good reason, okay? And number two, you have to follow the rules. And there are rules, you see? In other words, if you want to waste my time, you have to pay for it. I don't give it away.
I asked you about this one who had called the cops, so the cops had come.
Well, the cops have been here often. The cops are good, they're keepers of the peace. We pay their salaries with our taxes, so occasionally we should take advantage of their services, right? They will come to, be a negotiator. I mean, look what's going on with the world, NATO and all that stuff. You need someone to stand between two people who have lost all composure and rationality, and who might come to blows if the police don't come in. So the police have been here. It happens now and then. Well, I don't want to tell my stories over again. There was one gentleman who, dropped by when I was in the middle of his computer and decided he didn't want me working on it. Okay, after I had spent my morning working on his machine. There was another client who brought in this really junky computer, and I was working on it, and what I realized was that the hard drive, the piece of the computer that contained his work and his information, which is the important part of a machine, the rest can be rebuilt. That part was okay, but it was sitting inside a sick machine. His machine, the computer itself, was very, very sick. So all I needed to do to, number one, solve his problems, and number two, save his work, save the baby, was to get that hard drive out of his computer as soon as possible and get it into another machine. Okay? If I could do that, I could get him back, back on the road, get him doing his work. He was some architect or something like that, and save the baby. right? But what it is he wouldn't let me do that. He wanted me to fix the machine. He insisted I fix the machine, right? But he wouldn't let me take the hard drive out and put it into something else because he probably thought I was, selling him something he didn't need or something like that, right? So you have this situation where you've hired the brain surgeon to cut the tumor out, but you're telling the brain surgeon that he can't use a scalpel, or that he can't use a blood transfusion, or you don't like the way this nurse looks, or you don't like the way the operating theater is run. It's like, slow down. Who's in charge here? Okay. So we had this thing, and I worked hour after hour. I worked 12 hours on that machine, okay? And I kept calling him, let me put this hard drive in another. No. He loved his little machine. It was his piece of shit HP thing. He wouldn't let me change it, okay? So finally, at one point, now if I was as smart as I'd like to pretend I was, this would have happened at the 3-hour point instead of the 12-hour point, right? But I'm a sucker. Finally, I said, listen, I'm going to make a deal with you. I said, I want you to come. I want you to give me $100 cash. Okay, $100 for 12 hours worth of work. Hello, I should work at McDonald's, right? And take this machine out of here, and I never want to see it or you again. And I was rip shit at him. Okay, so he came, and then we got into this big fight, and then we had to call the police and all that stuff to kind of, smooth out things. Because for one thing, he did come back, even after we made the deal. $100, take the machine out, never come back. I never want to see you or your machine again. That $100, I'll go off to dinner, I'll have 2 scotches and forget my troubles, okay? But he came back, and he came back with 4 or 5 policemen. And it was like, hello, when I call the police, there's only one. Don't I want 3 or 4 or 5 cops? Aren't I dangerous enough? And he was worried that I still had his information, his precious data that he cared so much about, right? And I was like, if you really cared about your data, you would let me take this hard drive out and put it in another machine. A lot of it is about trust. And I'm not saying I am a thoroughly trustworthy person. However, I may not appear to be a thoroughly trustworthy to some person. My sweetheart tells me that I'm too intelligent. She says that I'm bright, and I scare people who aren't as smart because they think that a smart person or very smart person will, by definition, cheat you or take advantage of you, right? And it's like, it doesn't really work that way. It's not, smart people don't cheat you. Dishonest people cheat you, right? And you can be, dumb and cheat people, or you can be really bright, and cheat people in very clever, unique, super-duper ways, but, I'm not like that. I'm an honest person. And my interests and his interests were exactly in alignment. See, they don't understand that because they're too dumb. Okay? But what I wanted for him and what he ideally would have wanted would be the very same thing. If your appendix is, bursting, right? You take the appendix out, and that was the situation with his machine. The only way to save his damn data was to get it out. But anyway, so he called the cops, and we got into this big thing because he had come back when I said that he shouldn't come back. We had made the deal. And so basically I ended up yelling at the cops and yelling at him and everything, and they all walked away. And, I told them, I yelled out the door, I said, why don't you bring your mother next time? But the other thing that people who have trouble with me forget is that, I run a nice little business here. I see, dozens or hundreds of clients every week, and most people are very, very happy with my work. My work isn't the issue. The issue is, I would say, is the psychology or the belief systems of the people who come in here, their attitudes towards their computers, their attitudes towards me as a representative of the world of technology that they don't understand. You see, I'm a very reasonable, honest, intelligent, fair-minded, even calm, cool, and collected person. Okay? Except those kinds of people. Here's another story. Okay. There was this super rich guy, came from New York. He owned some huge famous restaurant in New York. I sold him a computer. This was when I was still going out to people's houses. And we had this whole thing about the fax machine. He couldn't get the fax on his computer to work. I went out there. I sent people out there. Every time we went, the fax worked fine. And the issue was that this was a computer fax. It wasn't a traditional fax machine, a box. It was a computer fax, and computer faxes are harder to use than regular fax machines, right? So the issue was that he couldn't figure out how to use the fax. But since he's king of the world, has $1 million in the bank, runs a fancy restaurant, it couldn't be him, right, Grant? It had to be the machine that he bought from me, or that machine you sold me, okay? So finally, we had this whole big thing with him. There were no police involved, but there definitely was trouble, shall we say. Now, here's the epiphany. Here's the punchline. 4 years later, I was at Office Depot buying some ink cartridges or something, and he was there at the counter, and there was a fax machine that he had bought there, and he was yelling at the poor sales clerk, saying that the fax machine didn't work. So I was like, thank you, there is a God, okay? The guy's just an idiot. I don't care how much money he has. I don't care how many stars the Michelin Man has about, what he's accomplished in life. I'm sure he's wonderful, but he's a fax machine idiot. He's what I call a bonehead. And he's the kind of person who would cause trouble and have trouble no matter where he went. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with the computer guru at all. It had to do with the client. So if you ever, go out on the street, man on the street with your microphone and say, hey, what do you hear about the computer guru? The funny thing is, half the people will tell you I'm fabulous, wonderful, I walk on water, I know my stuff, I'm a good guy, okay? The other half will tell you I'm psychotic, I should be locked up, I'm criminal, hello, it can't be both, right? It has to be one or the other, right? And if I didn't know how to fix computer, why am I saying this? You know.
What are you saying?
The toilet training didn't go properly or something like that. I have a complex. I'm just like everyone else. I'm not perfect.
All right. I'm going to ask one last question.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up. Tell me why, or what the difference is. You advertise yourself as a computer guru, and earlier you said I could be just a computer technician. I would like you to elaborate a little bit more on what a computer guru does.
Okay. Well, what I do here is sort of a compromise between, what could theoretically be done in an ideal world and what you have to do to earn a living and to run a business and to stay alive. So, I think definition of guru is someone who sheds light on dark areas or, brings light to the darkness or whatever. So I do that in the sense of what we said earlier. People's understanding of their computers is minimal. People need all the help they can get when it comes to computers. So I provide computer help. I enjoy building computers, and so my job certainly is to sell computers, to build them by hand and get those machines into people's hands. Because if you don't have a computer, you certainly can't do much with a computer, right? So I sell the computers, service the computers, upgrade the computers, train the computers, but there's a secondary soundtrack going on all the time, and that is that I try to analyze, assess, and modify the way my clients think about their computers. I try to bring their thinking about their machines into alignment with what I would call, I want to sound crazy here, computer truth. In other words, if people knew what was true about computers and what was not true about computers, if people understood their machines better, they would have less trouble with the machines. If they understood the computers completely, perfectly, they would have virtually no trouble with computers. But a lot of people who walk in here are having huge amounts of trouble with computers. And that is based on the fact that, of course, shit happens, but a lot of it is based on the fact that they don't understand how the machines work. They don't understand what they need to do to the machines to make them run properly. And so my job, even if you hire me to simply fix your machine, I try to do two things for you for the price of one. I succeed in fixing the machine, but I also educate the person as much as I can in the process. So if they bring it in, I have 10 minutes with them then. I fix it by myself. They come back to pick it up. I have another 10 minutes with them right before they leave. In that 10 minutes, I try to download, you might say, as much information as I can. Because when I look at the computer, I can tell a lot of, just like a palm reader or somebody looks at your hand, you have a long lifeline. I can look at a computer and tell you a lot about the person who uses it, right? You look at a computer desktop, there are these little things called icons, desktop icons, right? If you have large numbers of computer icons, like if the whole desktop is covered with icons, you have, in my opinion, a diseased mind, okay? So you have a cluttered mind, right? But if the icons are all lined up neatly, super perfect in a row, then you might be kind of, anal retentive, sterile type, Martha Stewart type person, right? So based on what I've learned from talking with them and based on what I've learned by looking at their machine, I do kind of a, what you might call psychological assessment of them. I figure out what I believe to be their largest problems related to their experience with machines, and then in real time, I give them as much beneficial information as I can. Okay? And some of this is very, very basic, and some of it works on a deep level. But if there was a truth behind the guru thing, as opposed to just being a computer mechanic, it would be that sort of educational aspect of it. The imparting of information, and you might call it computer wisdom, to these people, so that they don't have such a hard time of it, so that they don't, suffer, right? It's like the Buddha, right? We're trying to relieve computer suffering. And believe me, computer suffering is as insufferable as any kind of suffering. When a computer has decided to give you a run for the money, it will. Just ask the lady who lost, her 10 years of work on her great American novel, right? She is, again, she's fucked, right? But that's because she didn't come to the guru earlier. So what can I do? Go door to door? Full brush salesman?
Excellent. Okay.
Guru's webpage. We'll go to rummage through the Guru archives. Then we'll go to Mac Bashing Central. Where is it? Let's see. Here it is. So we have Just Say No to the Macintosh. Why Macintosh Users Are Boneheads, a scholarly inquiry. Journey to Macland, which is a Carlos Castaneda parody. We have The Shadow Over the Internet, which is an H.P. Lovecraft parody. We have A More Perfect Computing World. We have Industry Rants and Raves. And we have The Final Decision from the Smartest Guy Ever. It's not me, Albert Einstein. We ask Einstein, what's better, a PC or a Mac? Right? We decide we want the final answer. We're tired of all the ambiguity. Look at that. Now, if this is, well, it only depends who it is. Albuquerque. Computer Guru. No, well, not in mass, no. Not bulk duplication, no. Yeah, no, I would just be burning them one by one, so. Well, I'm not sure if there's anyone in the state who does that or not. The best place for that, surely, is the internet. Not to find someone who would do it for you. That's a kind of a specialized business. Right, so yeah, sure, you're welcome. So.
Okay.
Let's see. Say something, Steve. This is a dirty, filthy computer. Did you take this?
Yeah, we don't have to get just, some sound
Okay, go ahead.
louder.
This is a dirty, filthy computer. So we take the Office Depot blaster here, the only thing Office Depot is good for, and clean it. Look at that. Years of accumulated filth. Assume the woman in the house is not a very good housekeeper.
Why the woman?